Hi, I'm Adam, and I hate my city's public transit. But thankfully, we have cars, so that hate often remains dormant. But that wasn't the case when I was a student. That's because the university I went to is surrounded by nothingness. And everything inside that nothingness, they control. Like parking, knowing that those terrorists charged absolutely abhorrent prices. If only there was a way for me to infiltrate that moat of nothingness without paying into their evil empire. This is my 1981 Honda MOTOCOMPO. It's a foldable, fully street legal motorcycle designed to fit in a tiny car like this. Today, I'm gonna use it to infiltrate my old university without paying a cent to their parking. But you might be wondering, Adam, why are you gonna go back to that wretched place? Well, like all evil institutions, they're hiding something epic. And in this case, it's a glorious food court with some of the best value eats in the entire city. And I'm a hungry boy right now. And also pretty poor.
But before we set off on that journey, we have to go over the history of the MOTOCOMPO. In the early 80s, cities in Japan were getting denser. Parking was tight, and Honda had a pretty wild idea. What if you didn't need to park close to your destination at all? Instead, you'd park further away, open your trunk, and pull out a tiny motorcycle to ride that the rest of the way. Being a motorcycle brand at heart, they knew that navigating the small and tight streets of urban Japan on a bike was the best way to commute. You could go places and make maneuvers cars couldn't. Plus, you saved money on parking and gas. That idea led to Honda launching a compact car known as the City, and alongside it, the MOTOCOMPO. The MOTOCOMPO was designed specifically to fit in the trunk of the Honda City. Not kind of fit, but perfectly fit, like it was part of the car. And in a way it was, because you could only actually buy the MOTOCOMPO if you bought a Honda City. But here's the crazy part. Despite how clever it was, it flopped. Honda expected huge sales. Instead, the MOTOCOMPO only lasted from 1981 to 1983. People loved the idea, but in reality, most just didn't need it. Still, over time, it became something way better than a sales success. It became an icon.
Right now, it doesn't really look like an icon, but this folded form is half of what makes it magical. The other half is its amazing utility. But in order to demonstrate that, I have to unpack it.
You start by unlocking the latch here and getting it out of the way.
After that, you can pull out the foldable handlebars, and there's a little knob up here that you can use to lock them into place. Pop the seat up, grab that little cover you had earlier,
Tuck it back in, and now all that's left to do is turn the key, set the choke, turn the fuel on, flip your little foot pegs out, and now you can curb stomp this guy to life.
Now, we're ready to go take on this university. This little engine you hear is a 49cc one-cylinder two-stroke, which means it's got no power down low. But once it gets up in the revs, all 2.5 horsepower are free. I'm now at top speed, which is a blistering 30k an hour. Our main enemy here is gearing. And that's because we only have a 1-speed automatic due to the requirements the engineers had at Honda for lightweight and city driving. The other enemy is me. I've been too lazy to register this thing in Canada, so if you noticed, we have no rear plate. But we can go to insurance now and get that. Before we do that though, I want to show you how stealth this thing can be. Due to its tiny size and cute looks, I can get away with bringing this thing to places where you'd normally be arrested on a normal motorcycle. Pair this with one of these dorky bike helmets, and I can go literally anywhere.
Like through a park. Or maybe a baseball diamond. Or maybe even a grocery store.
I can't afford any of this. I need a real good deal.
I am parched. Nothing like some freaking OJ.
It also does well in an elevator. and on a busy sidewalk going to insurance.
So I have some bad news. Insurance denied my registration because apparently I'm missing some documents. So from this point forth, for legal reasons, this right here is an e-bike. Nothing's gonna get between me and my cheap lunch. We're breaching the moat! Let's go! Man, you always gotta stop when you see a view like that. To be honest, I only actually stopped because there was a cop on the highway, and my MOTOCOMPO isn't exactly the most legal version it could be. First, you guys saw, I got no license plate. But on top of that, the bike itself looks a bit used. And that's because it is. When I bought this motorcycle in Japan, it was under crazy circumstances. We went to fulfill our dreams of driving across Japan, and my Skyline let me down on the first day of 4 weeks with my heart broken and my wallet still full because of all the money I budgeted for 4 weeks of tolls and of gas. I did what any normal person would do, and I went to Japanese marketplace. That's where I found this thing for just under 150,000 yen. And some of you might think that's a lot of money, and it is, but these things usually go for over $7,000 on North American soil. And yeah, this exact example is a bit rough around the edges. You can see the previous owner in Japan did a paint job of some sort, did a custom white seat for some reason. But what I didn't figure out until I actually got back to Vancouver is that the entire electrical system was converted to 12 volts from the stock 6. And the problem with that is although he got the headlight and the tail light working, he didn't quite figure out the horn or the blinkers. And not to mention the tires are a little worse for wear. So a police officer probably wouldn't like that very much. But now that they're gone, it's time to lay siege to this cursed higher education land. Get a load of those idiots. Boy, I sure wish I had this thing when I went here. Imagine being dumb enough to pay for that. Almost there! Ah, how I've missed you. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Hi.
Hi, can I get a number 1, please?
Oh, here to go.
For here.